Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video, which will take us to around the 18th of March. We'll be able to extend out beyond that. We extended GFS and also ECM ensembles. So it was just released JMA Friday earlier on today, and that is your month-ahead look ahead. Looks like it's going to be very unsettled for the next week or so, next couple of weeks. Then we're trending towards higher pressure and warmer, dry conditions perhaps for the final stages of March and into early April. Have a look at that and see what's going on. This is going to have a detailed look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. I'll talk about the weekend video updates at the end of the video. So we're going to start off by having a look at the Arctic oscillation observed and forecast chart. So the black line here tells us where we've been with the Arctic oscillation, and the red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. At the moment we're in very positive territory with the AO, and the GFS ensembles are forecasting that will stay in positive territory with the AO certainly for the next week. There is a decline in the Arctic oscillation as we go into the second half of March. That's that period just there. But overall, I think generally the Arctic oscillation is staying on the positive side, really. There's a few ensemble members that are going into negative territory, but I think all that's happening is that we're going from a very positive Arctic oscillation, such as we've got there, to, I mean, it's still positive, but it's a little bit less positive, if you like, compared to what is happening at the moment and what we've got coming up in the next few days. But overall, it looks as though we've entered into an extended phase of positivity of the Arctic oscillation. We've seen that really going back into the middle of February, and I suspect it's got another month or so, maybe even more, to run. So for the time being, it looks like the Arctic oscillation will remain positive, albeit a little bit less so than it is at the moment. When you've got a positive Arctic oscillation, you've got low pressure up over the North Pole, and consequently you'll tend to strengthen westerlies through the mid-latitude. So this is a signal for westerly winds and Atlantic-driven weather, particularly in combination with the positive NAO, and that's what we've got coming up as well. So again, the black line here tells where we've been with the NAO, red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting NAO to go. That's where we are right now, with rather positive with the North Atlantic oscillation, as we have been pretty much going right way back to the start of the winter. Actually, been a very positive NAO winter, and it's going on into the spring as well. GFS ensembles are forecasting that we will keep the NAO positive going even into the second half of March. This is a really prolonged run of positivity of the North Atlantic oscillation. This tells us that the westerlies again are strengthened across the Atlantic. When you've got you'll have low pressure around Iceland and high pressure through the Azores. That will drive the index positive. Remember, it's always the weather that's driving the index. It's not the other way around. So because we've got strengthened high pressure through the Azores and low pressure around Iceland, that will drive the NAO into positive territory. And if you combine what's happening with the NAO together with the AO, it does look as though this Atlantic-driven spell of weather is set to continue. That doesn't necessarily mean wet, though, because you might strengthen the Azores high to such a degree, but it builds up across central and even western parts of Europe, and actually that would turn us very mild, such as we had in the final week to 10 days of February, for example. So it's not necessarily a particularly wet signal, although it can be very wet when you've got positive AO and NAO conditions, but it is a sign that you are strengthening the zonal flow. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're looking at Minehead today, another suggested place for our list of suggested locations for this part of the video. Incidentally, somebody asked me to have a look at Shoebury-Ness. Unfortunately, that place is not listed within the GFS ensemble. So whoever that was, if you can contact me again, and either through the comments at YouTube or on social media, or email gazovers@gmail.com, and if you can give me another place that's sort of in the area that you wanted us to look at, because we can't unfortunately look at Shoebury-Ness regrettably at Western Central. So looking at Minehead today, and the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Minehead, and we can see we're going to be a bit up and down. Actually, there's signs of a bit of a zonal sine wave here in the next week now. So we've got warmer sectors and cooler sectors, and again warmer sectors and cooler sectors and warmer sectors and cooler sectors, sort of alternating a little bit. Overall, I think we are still a little bit on the cooler than average side, and very unsettled as well. Lots of precipitation spikes coming through at regular intervals up to the middle part of March, so it remains pretty cool and pretty unsettled really in the next week to 10 days. Into the second half of March, and that's this period just here, we have got precipitation spikes continuing, but they are less, and it does look as though we might be starting to enter a bit of a drier phase there as we go into the second half of March. At the same time, looks like the upper air temperatures are climbing a little bit as well, so becoming a bit warmer and a bit drier perhaps into the second half of the month. It's not all that convincing, and it's very extended range stuff. It was showing up within JMA Friday, but we are likely, as we get towards the latter stages of March into early April, we're likely to see high pressure returning, bringing back spring. Whether it happens as early as this sort of period, like 20th, 21st, 22nd of March, or whether it's a bit later on, though, kind of like into the final week of March, remains to be seen. It could be that the third week of March, for instance, is a little bit transitional, perhaps. It does look as though the trend is towards something a little bit milder and a little bit drier as we go into the final stages of the month. Temperature anomalies, very close to average from the 8th to the 16th of March. Actually, Scandinavia still looks really quite cold, so winter holds on there. For the UK and Ireland, we're very close to average, a little bit below for the north, a little bit above for the south. Not a big deviation either way. Precipitation anomalies from the 8th to the 16th of March, still wetter than average. So this is going to be a very unsettled first half to March with rather significantly above average precipitation anomalies. This is how the GFS 6 o'clock operational run is looking for Monday. Generally unsettled. We are actually under a little transient bump of high pressure, but the overall pattern is unsettled. We'll have one area of low pressure clearing away from Sunday. Another one is waiting in the wings for Tuesday. So on Monday, we're just under this very slight bump of high pressure, but won't last very long. By the time you get through to Tuesday, wet and windy weather sweeps in from off the Atlantic. We've got a big low pressure sat over the top of the country by the middle of next week. That looks really unsettled. There'll be showers or longer spells of rain rotating around that area of low pressure. That low slinks away into Central Europe through Thursday next week, and a slight build of high pressure returns from the west, but again only transiently. We're back to unsettled conditions by the end of next week. In a week's time, Friday 15th of March, looking quite unsettled. Relatively mild though. We will be pulling up a relatively mild air from the mid-Atlantic before wind swings into the north again as we go through to Saturday the 16th of March. So colder northwesterly winds then going into next weekend. Those colder northerly winds take us up to day 10. That's how we look at day 10. Monday the 18th of March has a ridge of high pressure out to our west, and we're pulling down these cold northerly winds which could be bringing wintry showers to eastern parts of the country. There'll probably be night frost as well. That high pressure then starts to slip away to our south a little bit. We start to infiltrate milder air around the top. So as we go towards the end of the GFS run, we're increasingly trending towards high pressure building back through the country. So that is in line with what we're expecting, a return of high pressure as we run towards these final stages of the month. This is taking us to Sunday, 24th of March, or into the last week of March by this point. We're back under an area of high pressure, and I think the air's turning a little bit milder with that as well, although we are bringing in easterly winds. I don't think they're particularly cold easterly winds, and actually before that we do pull up some relatively mild air from the mid-Atlantic just there. So it looks like it's turning milder and drier for the final week to 10 days of March on that GFS operational run. This is a GFS parallel run. Again, we're under a little bump of high pressure for Monday, but it's not going to last very long. Wet and windy on Tuesday, with showers or longer spells of rain through Wednesday. And then as we go into the final stages of next week, still looking unsettled after a milder day on Thursday. By Friday, we're back to those colder northwesterly winds again. Into next weekend, or the following weekend, which is Saturday, 16th, Sunday, 17th of March. Still unsettled, fairly chilly, or even quite cold northwesterly winds. Then that's how we look at day 10. So we are trying to build up some high pressure from the southwest. We're probably still quite showery, probably still relatively cool at day 10. And then the high pressure becomes increasingly influential as we go into extended range of the parallel GFS run. That's how it looks as we get to the very end of the parallel GFS run. So low pressure's out to the northwest, high pressure down to the south. That's definitely quite a bit milder, and it's also turning mainly dry, I would have thought, especially down in the south. ECMWF, again, got that little bump of high pressure on Monday before we go wet and windy on Tuesday. That takes us into Wednesday. Thursday looking quite cold and showery, and then wind backing into the west for Friday next week. A week's time looks rather milder, but also unsettled, still bringing in weather systems from off the Atlantic. In the extended range to the east, with the ECM going to day 10, turns increasingly cold as winds turn into the north. Low pressure is sitting to our east, high pressure's out to our west, and we bring down this cold northerly wind, which would be enough to bring wintry showers, probably snow showers, to northern and eastern parts of the country, and some fairly significant night frost would be expected with that as well. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today at day 10 via the Icelandic Met Office. So day 10, of course, is the 18th of March. We've got 24 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure out to our west and low pressure is to the east. Just got to change the colour. Low pressures to the east with that trough just there. So they're unsettled and they're pretty chilly, maybe even quite cold as well. Then there's another 13 that have low pressure over and to the east of the country. It includes the control and operational ECM runs as well. They're unsettled and we're also quite cold. Winds are in from a northwest direction. There's another 9 that have low pressure over and to the east of the country. Again, they look very unsettled and potentially quite cold as well. And then there's 5 members of the ECM ensembles, a minority option, but look a little bit more westerly. These are a milder option. There's low pressure to the north, there's high pressure to the west-southwest, we generally bring in more of a westerly flow with those. But generally, I think the ECM ensembles are looking quite cold and unsettled at day 10. In 2 weeks' time, 360 hours, this takes us to the 23rd of March. So 22 members of the ECM ensembles have us under high pressure and have the high pressure over Scandinavia. So those are bringing in easterly winds, which may or may not be quite cold. It would depend on the exact origins of the air, but they would certainly be quite a lot drier. Then there's 16 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure to the south and low pressure up to the north. They're milder and they're bringing in a westerly flow. Probably still quite unsettled for the north, but mainly dry and potentially a little bit spring-like actually down in the south. And that does include the ECM control run as well. And then there's 13 members of the ECM ensembles that are just very unsettled. They have low pressure almost over the top of the country. Suggestion of a little bit of northern blocking as well up there, but the main thing about these ones, these 13, is that they are very unsettled as we get towards 2 weeks away. Gradually, it looks like we're reaching our way to a re-establishment of high pressure for the final week to 10 days of March, but it's a slow old process, and it's still not looking all that convincing at the moment. We're still waiting for the models to truly latch on to this change to warmer, drier conditions for the final week to 10 days of March. Finally, just having a look at April. So we got to the very beginnings of April with JMA Friday. But I thought I'd just show you this. This is the CFS V2 700 millibar height anomaly for April itself, and it looks like quite a pleasant month actually, quite a spring-like month. It's going for an area of above average height centred over and also to the south of and the southeast of the UK. So we're under a ridge of high pressure. We expect a lot of dry weather with that, and relatively mild conditions as well. The temperature anomaly is being forecast to be generally above average to the UK and for most parts of Central Europe as well through April. The precipitation anomaly is very weak, so I would have thought we're likely to have quite a dryish month on that sort of 700 millibar height anomaly, but there's no real signal within the CFS V2 the precipitation for April today. But of course that's a very long way off, and you wouldn't necessarily expect much of a signal from the CFS for April at this point in terms of precipitation. Precipitation is always weaker than heights and temperature. For some reason. Overall, that's looking like a fairly pleasant April, I must say. But of course, the CFS is prone to chopping and changing, so it could look quite different in a day or so's time. Coming back to that's all very expected. Coming back to the more reliable time frame, so the Atlantic-driven weather goes on up to the middle part of the month. We're going to keep it unsettled. There'll be showers or longer spells of rain, not overly mild. In fact, some days could be quite cold. The second half of the month is still posing questions. It looks like we're gradually inching our way towards a re-establishment of high pressure, particularly for the final week to 10 days of March. But it's quite a convincing signal within the long range output when we did January Friday, but the shorter range, actually, the signal isn't all that convincing yet. Between the GFS and the ECM, looks like we're still struggling really to hook up this high pressure from the Azores and to properly start to go into more settled spell of weather. That said, that is still what I'm anticipating for the final week to 10 days of March. I'm still anticipating that we will go into this more spring-like spell, but it is taking a little while for the models to truly latch onto it. So we should wait and see about that. Now, over the weekend, we've got lots of updates coming up. So we've got the weekend forecast, of course, tomorrow, as always, on a Saturday, we'll have the weekend forecast. We're also going to have a week to 10-day video update as well. Sunday, we'll have the Gaz Service Sunday Roundup, and we'll also have our first batch of analogues for the summer on Sunday also. So summer updates are beginning at Gaz Service this weekend, and probably on Sunday afternoon. I'm not sure if it'll be tomorrow or if it'll be sunny, but I think it'll probably be Sunday afternoon. We're going to verify the winter 2018-19 forecast. So you know that the Gaz Service winter forecast went a little bit wrong, to say the least, and we'll be discussing what happened during the winter, and we'll also be discussing some of the reasons for perhaps why the winter we just had happened and why the forecast went awry. So that will probably be Sunday afternoon, I would have thought, but we'll verify the winter 2018-19 forecast. But that's all for now. That's it for today's updates. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.